for $249 per month or a Chevy Equinox for only $199 per month. Visit ChevroletofMontebello.com for details. Together, let's drive.
At Chevrolet of Montebello.
Is this the tether?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tonight at Crypto.com Arena, we will learn a lot about the Lakers' mental toughness. Can they rise up and beat the Denver Nuggets? The Lakers have lost 10 straight to the defending NBA champions. Anthony Davis needs to get the ball more often in the fourth quarter. In Game 2 on Tuesday, AD took only one shot in the final 19 minutes. That cannot happen tonight. 7 p.m. tip-off for Game 3 on TNT. The NFL Draft kicks off tonight. The Chargers have the number 5 pick. The Rams are at number 19. This is the Rams' first pick in the first round since 2016. Former USC quarterback Caleb Williams is expected to be the number 1 overall pick by the Chicago Bears. Williams is one of 2 black quarterbacks that could be taken among the first 3 picks. The other is former LSU quarterback and Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
I'm Tavis, Smiley. Welcome to the second hour of our program today. Delighted to have you tuned in. In this hour, his passion for systemic change is driven by his abiding love for his wife, Kira, who passed away following the birth of their second child. Kira underwent a routine C-section following an uncomplicated pregnancy, but hours later she died from internal hemorrhaging despite adamant pleas for help from medical professionals by her husband and other loved ones. Kira's story exemplifies the current crisis in America, rising rates of black maternal mortality, and the silencing of black voices. I am delighted and honored and humbled that he has given us an hour to trek through what I know must be a painful conversation every time he has it. But let me start by thanking Charles Johnson IV for joining us for the hour to talk about Kira and this story. Charles, good to have you on. Thank you for your time, sir.
Oh, brother, listen, first and foremost, I'm just so grateful to be here. And I know that, we've got an hour to work with. Before I say anything, I just have to take a moment, man, and just thank you. I won't even say Tavis, say Mr. Smiley for just being who you are and who you've been for our community for so many years, brother. So, I came up watching you on BET. I came up with the state of Black America. And so these things it really truly is been a conversation that I have been really looking forward to, brother. So with that, I'm really excited to explore this issue with you, and thank you for making this topic a priority.
No, you were kind. That means a great deal to hear that from you. I'm humbled every time I hear those kinds of sentiments and accolades. I say all the time that every one of us wants to be loved, appreciated, acknowledged, and affirmed, whether you admit it or not.
Amen.
We all want those
Amen.
things. That's part of the human condition, and it means something
Amen.
when you spend a life trying to love and serve people, that people get that, and it's never lost to me. I am always deeply touched and humbled by those kinds of sentiments. So thank you for sharing that. It means a great deal. And
Yes,
as I,
sir.
and as I
Yes,
said a
sir.
moment ago, I'm grateful. I can't imagine what it was like to endure what you endured. I know that one never closes on a loved one like you close on a house. So I know that it must be
Yeah.
difficult and painful to discuss this every time. But thank you for giving us this hour. Let me provide a little bit more context here, because I
Sure.
want to just be transparent, as you will be, of course, as we move through this hour. So if you're in Los Angeles, the hospital that we're talking about is Cedars, known around the world, but Cedars messed this up. And it's not just Cedars. So we're gonna talk about what happened to Kira in this hour. But rest assured, there are other hospitals all across this country who are guilty of the same sorts of, I don't want to say infraction. That's not a serious enough term. But when you lose too many black women in childbirth, after childbirth, because of mistakes made by institutions, by hospitals, it's a problem. And so I want to talk about it in this hour. And again, I thank Charles for sharing with us the story. So that said, let me pass the mic to you. I want to start with this first because I want to make sure that we understand who Kira was before we get to what they did to Kira. Tell me about Kira.
Man, no, I appreciate that. And even, 8 years later, even when I prepare to do my best to articulate um, who this woman was, man, we're talking about a woman that, spoke 5 languages fluently, right? She had
Mm.
her pilot's license. She was an avid skydiver. I joke and I say, man, look, she went skydiving like some of us go for jobs, right? She was a thrill seeker. I've never seen anybody squeeze more out of 24 hours in a day than she would. Just this infectious personality and smile who never met a stranger. And honestly, like I say, she challenged me to be a better person, a better man in every single aspect of my life. And I'll be frank, like she was way out of my league. You know what I'm saying? And the best decision I ever made was making this woman my wife.
Mm. She's out of your league, but maybe not because you chose her, but she also chose you. Tell
There
me
you
more.
go.
Tell me about your courtship, how you guys met. I want to get the backstory
Yeah,
about your
yeah,
time
yeah.
together, man.
So that's cool. And I don't get a chance to tell this part of the story often. So we were at a mutual friend's birthday party,
Hmm.
and I was on my way out, and I'd ridden with some other friends, and my buddy was driving, and so we were headed out. And as I was walking towards the exit, everybody was doing their thing, and I just see this just beautiful young lady sitting there, but has her arms folded and this look on her face like she is not feeling this. Like she is not feeling this. Like this is not her spot. Like she's beyond ready to go, and she just looks so out of place because everybody was having such a good time.
Hmm.
And this isn't even. I gotta be honest. This is not in my you say in my bag, right? This is not something that I don't know what came over me. I
Yeah.
will never forget. At the moment, Frankie Beverly, Before I Let You Go was playing, Tavis, right?
Mm.
And so it's playing in the room. That's the vibe of all vibes. And
Oh
as I'm
yeah.
approaching her, right, we make eye contact. And she still has that look on her face. But then I just start singing it to her as I'm walking, and her eyes just lit up in this smile, right? Everything that those arms folded, that kind of like that whole posture, it just kind of faded away, and it was replaced by the most beautiful smile I had ever seen,
Mm.
right? And oh my goodness. So, we chatted briefly. But once again, it's like you and your boys are running. Come on, we got to roll. And I was like, look, here's my face. Can we, I'd love to get in touch with you. And I think a couple of days later, we did lunch. And the rest was history somewhat, right?
Hmm.
And so what started with really just a friendship, man, around 2005 and 6, And then Kira, actually, interestingly enough, went to China for a trip that was supposed to be 2 weeks and ended up staying for 3.5 years.
Hold
Right?
that, hold that,
And
hold that thought, hold that thought. That's why you said the rest is history. Kind of, because Kira disappeared for 3.5 years in China. I'm learning more about the backstory of Kira. We'll get to the sad part of this story. And then after the sad part, we'll talk about the work that Charles is doing today in honor of Kira. So the story is going to ebb and flow. It's going to be a roller coaster of emotion, but we're going to get through this together. You're listening to Charles Johnson IV, and I'm glad about it on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
Hey y'all, Mona Swain here from Target's new YouTube series, My Cart is Full, where we feature Black founders and creators highlighting their connection to our community. As an actor and content creator, I love using my voice to inspire young Black women who look like me. When it comes to feeding my shine, seeing myself reflected in Black-owned and founded products at Target brings me joy. Together, we are Black Beyond Measure. Learn more at target.com/Black Beyond Measure.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze Fruit on the Go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
We used to argue about whose turn it was to clean the gutters, but then I had Leaf Filter gutter protection installed.
Wait, I told you Leaf Filter had free inspections and estimates and a lifetime guarantee.
Meaning we never have to argue about whose turn it is to clean the gutters again.
But I visited leaffilter.com/beacon first.
No, I did.
It doesn't matter who. Visit leaffilter.com/beacon to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off today.
See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. 1 discount per household.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This you can bear. You stood right beside me, yeah, and I won't forget. And I really love you. You should know. I wanna make sure I'm right, girl, before I let go.
It's hard, Charles. It's hard to step on Frankie Beverly. He sounds, man, he sounds so good. But I wanted to pull this up because you're telling us an amazing love story about you and Kira, and you mentioned that when y'all saw each other for the first time, this was the vibe y'all were hearing. Turn it up, Miles. Turn it up.
Crank it up.
I wanna make sure I'm right, girl, before I let go. Yeah.
So you were saying, Charles, a moment ago that the rest, as they say, is history, but then you said, not really. Finish telling me this love story of how Kira disappeared on you for 3.5 years.
Man, she disappeared on me, man. You playing that, man, and just thank you to your team for playing that. I'm over here cheesing like a pizza, man. But it you know, so she ends up going, you know, the adventure that she was. She goes to China for a week, for a trip that's supposed to be 2 weeks, and ends up staying for 3.5 years, right? And you know, she ended up, you know, establishing businesses in China, and she had an education background, and so she actually opened up English second language schools in China, teaching Chinese children English. And she spent some time, and then, you know, I, you know, enjoyed the life of being a young bachelor in Atlanta. And then when she moved back, we just kind of picked up where we left off, and, you know, just kind of began this amazing partnership together. And yeah, man, it was an amazing journey together.
Yeah. So you guys got together, and you had one child, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I always wanted to be a dad, and so in 2014 we welcomed our first son, Charles the Fifth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, right.
Let me just probe that. I mean, you said something a moment ago that sounds simple on the surface, but there's so much there. There's so much there.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a black man saying, I always wanted to be a dad. I always wanted to be a dad. Unpack that for me, Charles. Why'd you always want to be a dad?
So I just, you know, for me, fatherhood was cool, man. And, you know, my father, and this is not, and I'm just trying to be careful about how I do. My father is a good man, right, with noble intentions. However, he was somebody that was very focused on his career and being a provider, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the things that I longed for as a kid, oftentimes weren't there. And that's, like I said, I'm being very careful about how I phrase this. But I always looked up to my friends who had the dad that coached the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was shooting hoops, and that wasn't something that just wasn't my dad's thing. And so I knew very early on the type of father I wanted to be. And, you know, I just always wanted that, man. And so when that became a reality, man, you couldn't tell me nothing. I was ecstatic.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about what it means, though, to be a part of a black family lineage, a black family heritage, where you're now up to Charles the Fifth.
It's real. It's real. And that's something that, you know, I just be transparent. We're talking to families. I think that, you know, I went through a period in my life where me and my father's relationship wasn't the best.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through this phase of, you know, I was gonna stop this, man. Like I'm never gonna name my son Charles, right? Because of where I was in that space and time.
Mm-hmm.
But as I got older, I began to realize that everything about that lineage made me who I was, right? Whether I liked it or not. And it was with intention for me to break those generational curses and to be intentional about redirecting it and carrying on something, because the opportunity to have somebody carry a name for 5 generations, like you said, in our community, is something that is so significant and so special. And how dare I not honor that, right?
Yeah. Now, as you were talking, I'm thinking about that great writer Shakespeare, who asked that probing and provocative question: "What's in a name? A rose by any other name would still smell just as sweet." With all due respect to Mr. Shakespeare, there's a whole lot in a name, and when you carry it for 5 generations, it means something, particularly in the black community. So we celebrate all of you Charleses, and even Charles the Fifth. Let me just ask right quick: how is Charles the Fifth doing all these years later?
Man, like He's doing great, man. So my boys now, we'll talk about Langston as well, are 8 and 9 years old, and they're smart. They are funny. They are determined. They are kind, and they're adventuresome. And they really, and that's why I tell brothers, choose wisely, man. They really have all of their mother's best characteristics, man. They're doing exceptionally well, particularly under the circumstances of what they've been through.
I heard you say his name is Langston. Should I read into that, Langston?
Yeah. Listen, you're a historian and definitely, a fan of literature, particularly African American literature.
Oh yeah.
We talked about. And we talked I think it's important for this conversation to kind of lean into the legacy part of this, and that my great grandfather, Charles Spurgeon Johnson, the first, and the Langston Hughes were actually good friends. And so that was the carryover of that legacy. It was important for us to celebrate, Mr. Hughes, and also it's also this tough that we never wanted Langston to feel that his brother was the one that only was tied to a legacy, right? And so we wanted to be able to immediately not have him search for greatness associated with who he was, right? And so, the brother sit here, even at 3 years old, he was, he can recite poetry, and he can talk to you about, him going to Lincoln University. He can tell you all the things about the great Langston Hughes, man. So we really make sure that we celebrate that legacy, and it's at the forefront of how we shape and we mold the boys.
Man, I got goosebumps with that story, man. You and Kira done good, man. Y'all done good. And for him to know that his name means something, and for him at this age to already be able to unpack that for people, what his name means and where that name comes from, and the fact that Langston Hughes was a friend of his family. It's a powerful story in and of itself. And I ask these questions not knowing what the answers are going to be. Obviously, I never know where these conversations are going to go, but I think I'm asking all the right questions in this conversation. I'm asking all the right questions.
We're on the road. We're on the road.
Yeah, I'm doing.
That's the importance of being here with you, because I have opportunities to share the story, but I don't get to share these aspects of our story. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I'm honored to have this conversation.
No, man, I thank you for taking these questions. So you and Kira get together. Charles V comes along, and then you get pregnant with your second baby. Take it from there.
Yeah. So we once we had Charles, we kind of began to talk about how cool it would be to have these back-to-back boys, right? Brothers that were close in age. And we did the whole politically correct thing the first time around. It was like, what? We don't care what the gender is. We just gonna, just give us a healthy child. But the second go round, particularly Kira, she was clear that she was a boy's mama. She grew up the youngest sister with 3 older brothers, right? She was an avid sports fan. She didn't see herself doing hair and nails and tea parties. She liked this idea of, soccer games and, and t-ball and all the things that come with raising young men. And so when we found out we were welcoming a second son in April of 2016, and that they would be 18 months apart, this was it, man. Like, this was it. And we were just so thrilled. So thrilled to find out that God was blessing us with another little boy.
Yeah. And this is where the story turns. As I mentioned earlier, she underwent a routine C-section following an uncomplicated pregnancy. Take the story from there, Charles, if you will, sir.
Sure. As you mentioned, throughout Kira's entire pregnancy, she was not only in good health, but she was in exceptional health. Every single prenatal visit pointed to both her and Langston being exceptionally healthy. And so we are both natives of Atlanta, and we've recently relocated to Los Angeles. And the painful irony, particularly for your listeners there in Southern California, is that, as a father, as a husband, you want the best for your family. And so I sought out what I truly thought and what we truly thought was the best place. And we made the intentional decision to give birth at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, because it was our understanding that this was the place, right? It was this fancy hospital in Beverly Hills. It's where everybody goes. And particularly, they're supposed to have this reputation excellence, particularly in the area of labor and obstetrics. So on April 12th of 2016,
Let me, Charles. Hold, I'm sorry. As they say, pardon the interruption. You
Yes, sir, no
chose
problem.
you chose Cedars. Where were you living at the time?
So we were in Los Angeles.
Okay.
We relocated from Atlanta to Los Angeles.
Okay,
so we've been in Los Angeles.
Got it.
Yes.
So you're already in LA and you chose
We're
Cedars.
in LA. Yes,
okay.
sir.
Keep going. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Exactly. So Charles was born in Atlanta, in Langston. We had moved after Charles was born to Los Angeles, and so we seek out Cedars, and we're intentional about that. And so on April 12th of 2016, we went into Cedars-Sinai for what we expected to be a routine cesarean delivery it was a scheduled cesarean at our doctor's recommendation. So we go in at 2 p.m. for the delivery, right? Langston is born perfectly healthy, 10 fingers, 10 toes, came out super handsome, right? Looking just like me. I joke like,
looking just like you, just like his daddy.
Just like me, right?
Yeah.
Just like his daddy. So I'm just on top of the world, right? And so they take us back to recovery, which is typical in a cesarean delivery. And as I'm sitting there, soaking it all in, the pride of being a father for the second time, Kira's there resting, and Langston's in the little toaster incubator thing, right? And I'm just sitting there watching both of them rest. And I'm just soaking it in, just that pride of becoming a father. I know you know it well. And this is around 4 o'clock. I'm going to take you all through the timeline of events briefly, and in the interest of time. Mm-hmm. As I look down, I begin to see blood coming from the catheter at Kira's bedside, right? Keep in mind, this is around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I bring it to the attention of the doctors and the staff at Cedars. They come in, they examine Kira, they take her vitals, they order some tests, but very importantly, they order a CT scan that's supposed to be performed stat. So for you, Tavis, and for your listeners, what does stat mean to you, right? Mm-hmm. It means right now, right? Mm-hmm. So at this point, I'm concerned, but I'm thinking my baby is healthy, my wife is healthy, and we're at Cedars-Sinai, right? That's 4 o'clock. 5 o'clock comes. Her blood work comes back to showing that it's abnormally low. She's sensitive to the touch. She's complaining of pain in her abdomen. And so there's very clear signs early on that she's hemorrhaging significantly internally, all right? But still no CT scan. Keep in mind that CT scan was ordered stat, right? So 6 o'clock comes, no CT scan. And I'm continuing to ask, hey, where's the CT scan? What's going on? They're saying, oh, we'll see. We're not sure. We'll let you know. 7 o'clock comes, no CT scan, right? And I'm still asking more and more adamantly now that by this time, Tavis, she's shivering uncontrollably, right? Because she's losing so much blood. And I'm saying, look, what's going on? Saying, oh, well, we're not sure. We may take her back for surgery. And so this game of dismissal, denial, and very importantly, deprioritization continues to escalate. 8 o'clock, no CT scan. I'm still advocating. My family is there asking, begging, pleading for them to do something. 9 o'clock comes, and now at 9 o'clock, Kira's still there. The only thing they've done to this point is give her IV fluids.
Hold that thought. It's 9 o'clock. It's been happening since 2. It's now 9 o'clock, and all they're doing is giving her fluids. The rest of the story when we come forward with Charles Johnson IV on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish. Minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The abortion issue is heating up in the U.S. The Supreme Court Wednesday heard a closely watched case over whether Idaho's near-total abortion ban conflicts with a federal law requiring hospitals to provide emergency care. Also on Wednesday, Arizona lawmakers voted to repeal a Civil War-era abortion law that bans nearly all abortions. In Georgia, we're now learning the funeral for Atlanta hip-hop pioneer Rico Wade will be a private service. His life will be celebrated at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, where close to 70 members of Clark Atlanta's band will be playing outside Friday. The African-American music producer who founded the musical collective Organized Noise died at the age of 52 nearly 2 weeks ago. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Visit Chevrolet of Montebello for spring savings. Lease a 2024 Chevy Trax for $249 per month or a Chevy Equinox for only $199 per month. Visit ChevroletofMontebello.com for details. Together, let's drive.
At Chevrolet of Montebello.
Is this the title? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tonight at Crypto.com Arena, we will learn a lot about the Lakers' mental toughness. Can they rise up and beat the Denver Nuggets? The Lakers have lost 10 straight to the defending NBA champions. Anthony Davis needs to get the ball more often in the fourth quarter. In Game 2 on Tuesday, AD took only one shot in the final 19 minutes. That cannot happen tonight. 7 p.m. tip-off for Game 3 on TNT. The NFL Draft kicks off tonight. The Chargers have the number 5 pick. The Rams are at number 19. This is the Rams' first pick in the first round since 2016. Former USC quarterback Caleb Williams is expected to be the number 1 overall pick by the Chicago Bears. Williams is one of 2 black quarterbacks that could be taken among the first 3 picks. The other is former LSU quarterback and Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. By any other name, we demand environmental justice in 2024 and beyond. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
Hi, I'm Reverend Gerald, host of Urban Family Focus here on KBLA Talk 1580 on Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. In an effort to help reduce the impact of hypertension in our community, Providence is offering free hypertension assessments. The first 30 people to visit KBLA1580.com and use the link or QR code to register will receive 2 tickets to the Amazing Grace Conservatory presentation of Aladdin, A Whole New World for Real, at the Crenshaw Performing Arts Center, May 25th and 26th. Go to KBLA1580.com right now and be one of the first 30 to register for your hypertension screening and receive 2 tickets to Aladdin, compliments of Providence and KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Are you tired of being stuck without internet access? Connect and go with LA County Library. It's simple. Visit your local LA County Library location and borrow a hotspot for free to get Wi-Fi wherever you are.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice, and injustice. The courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
I spray and scrub, but the soap scum in my bathtub is still there.
I spray and scrub, but the burnt sauce on my stovetop sticks around.
Sprays can leave grime behind, but new Mr. Clean Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser combines the scrubbing power of an eraser with the cleaning power of Dawn to melt away tough messes on contact.
Just wet, squeeze, and erase.
Stop spraying, start erasing, and clean with more magic than ever with new Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Oh Lord, it's difficult conducting conversations when you know where the story is headed. And yet, Charles Johnson IV is telling this story in a way that is resonant for me, and I can tell by all of you posting on our social media platforms, it's resonating with you as well. Charles Johnson IV, it is now 9 o'clock. Pick up the story, sir.
Yes, sir. So 9 o'clock. As I mentioned before the break, all they've done to this point is give her IV fluids. And at this point, a nurse comes in to change Kira's IV fluids. And as she's exiting the room, I followed her and just kind of out of desperation, I pulled her to the side and I said to her, "Look, ma'am." I looked her in her eyes. I grabbed her by both hands and I said, "Look, my wife is not doing well. They said that they were going to take her back for a CT scan. That was hours ago. Nobody has come. They have begun to talk about possibly taking her for surgery. Nobody has done anything." And I said to her, I said, "Ma'am, can you please just help us?" At which point this woman looked me dead back in my eyes, snatched her hands away from me, and said to me words that still haunt me to this day. She said, "Sir, your wife just isn't a priority right now."
Wait.
Your wife just isn't a priority.
I was about to ask, you can't be serious, but I know you're not making this up, though, obviously.
No, I'm not. And it's 9 o'clock. 10 o'clock comes around. She's still there. She's still suffering, expressing pain, having more and more trouble staying awake. And 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and now it's after midnight. And it wasn't until 12:30 a.m. that they finally made the decision to take Kira back to surgery. As I mentioned earlier before the break, my son was born at 2 o'clock that afternoon. So now it's 10 hours later. 10 hours she's been there bleeding internally, suffering needlessly, while myself and my family beg and plead for them just to validate our concerns and take action, right? So now at this point, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, but part of me is relieved because they're finally doing something. So they mobilize her, they take her back to surgery, and I'm walking next to the bed, and she says to me, she's saying, at this point, she's weak and she's in pain, but she's conscious and she's aware of everything that's going on. And keep in mind, as I told you earlier in this conversation, this is a woman that was fearless. And as we're making this walk to the operating room, she said something to me that I don't think I've ever heard her say. And she said to me, "Baby, I'm scared. I'm scared." And once again, as a husband, you just do the best you can. I'm just telling her everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be all right. And there's so many layers. I know we'll get into this, but the greatest layer and the greatest failure for me, as I look back on this 8 years later, it was the failure of fundamental human decency. And the doctor who had been responsible for Kira's care, who had just kind of allowed this to take place, he overheard that conversation, her expressing her fears. And he said something else to me that haunts me this day. He said, "It's not a big deal." He said, "Sometimes these things happen. I'm going to go back into the same incision I made for the cesarean section. I'm going to find out what's going on. I'm going to fix it, and she'll be back in 15 minutes. She'll be back in 15 minutes. And so finally we get to the end of this long corridor. The doors open, and they tell me I can't go any further. They said, "Sir, you've got to stay right here," and those doors close behind Kira. When they took her back in that operating room, Tavis, and they opened her up, there were 3 liters of blood in her abdomen from where she'd been allowed to bleed and suffer for all those hours. And when they opened her up, she coded. Her heart stopped immediately. And they tried to work on her for some time, but they were unable to save her. And at 2:23 a.m. on the morning of April 13th, 2016, Kira Dixon Johnson was pronounced dead at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, California.
I don't know what to say, Charles.
Let me say this, Tavis. When I walk, I'm always transparent about this, right? Because at this point, 8 years later, I get a lot of props for the work that we've done and the things we've tried to accomplish in Kira's honor, right? But I always have to be transparent about the fact that when I walked into that hospital that afternoon, the thought that my wife would not walk out to raise her boys, it never crossed my mind, right? And I thought that I knew. I thought that I did everything right. I thought that I read all the books. I never missed a prenatal appointment for either one of my sons, right? I sought out the place that I thought would give her the best chance, right? And it still wasn't enough. It still wasn't enough. And what I didn't understand then, but what I understand now, is that Kira is not an anomaly, is that we are in the midst of a maternal mortality crisis that is shameful across the board in our country, and that we lead the industrialized world in women dying in pregnancy and pregnancy-related causes. But what is even more disturbing than that is that our women, mothers from the African-American community, are dying at rates 5 times as often as their Caucasian counterparts. So we cannot have a substantive conversation about the maternal mortality crisis in the United States without head-on addressing the manner in which it is disproportionately affecting Black women and Black families, period, full stop.
Your son, Langston, is born at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Your wife is pronounced dead at 2:23 a.m.
Yes, sir.
When they walk out to tell you that Kira is gone, what do you recall about that moment?
There's a couple of things. And in the interest of time, so like I said, it was after midnight. So my mother had taken my older son back to the condo. Kira's family had gone to check into the hotel, and I was the only one there. But when they took her back to surgery, they first came out and told me that she coded and that her situation was critical, but they were continuing to work on her. And my response at that time was, thank you for letting me know, but I need you to get back in there and bring me my wife back. And even though things were bad, I'm thinking to myself, this is Kira, right? Like, ain't no way. Like, she gonna be all right. It got a little sketchy, but this is the closest thing I was just talking to her. I was just talking to her, right? And so I called the family, and they rushed back up there. And so we're there just kind of all praying and pacing. And then another set of doctors came out. Very importantly, this is another thing I don't get to share often, is that the doctor who had been responsible for her care didn't even come out and give us the news, Tavis. He sent 2 residents out there to give us the news while he slipped out the back door. He sent 2 kids out there, right? And I remember them saying that to us. And I remember everything. The best way I can describe it is almost like a nuclear bomb had been dropped upon everything that I hold dear. And I just remember, I'm still haunted by the sound, the scream that her mother made, right? I remember her just collapsing to the floor. I remember her brother shouting and screaming like, no, no, no. And I remember standing there frozen in disbelief. And I just watching everybody kind of in slow motion just crumble, like literally my whole world crumble around me.
I'm kind of frozen. I'm kind of frozen myself in disbelief. Give me a minute, Charles. We'll continue when we come forward.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father.
And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/joy and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free, with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit, hims.com/joy.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Hey, I got a question for you. You hate bending over to put on your shoes? Wish you could just put them on standing or sitting without ever having to touch them? If so, then I have the shoe for you. Introducing new hands-free Skechers Slip-ins. With new Skechers Slip-ins, you just step in and off you go. You don't even need to lace up. So how do Skechers Slip-ins work? Well, there's a special smooth comfort pillow in the heel that helps your foot slide right into place. So just step in them and go. Find new hands-free Skechers Slip-ins for the whole family at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
Charles Johnson IV, I'm getting stuff coming at me so fast I can't even keep up with it. Messages and posts and all the like. Let me just ask a couple of questions that people want to know. Obviously, I want to know these things as well because I know the backstory because I've read about it and know your case. Remember when it happened, and I've been at Cedars for a number of procedures in my own life, so I know this hospital quite well. Lived down the street from Cedars, in fact. Were there any black nurses, any black doctors, any black personnel that you recall that particular night that you spoke to or could have spoken to?
Yes, they were few and far between. There was a nurse that was an African-American woman who was actually part of our intake team, who was very kind, but she had a shift change, Tavis. Shortly after Langston was born, she was gone. And I think from that point forward, I may have seen one other black face in all those hours.
That question is asked, obviously, because we're just trying to figure out if there was anybody black to appeal to that might have understood the way that others did not. Clearly, this case became a major, this issue turned into a major legal case. Can you update me on the legal proceeding, the legal case?
Sure. So, in the effort from the onset, there have been two things that I've been very clear about that were important to me, and the only thing that ever mattered to me in this whole process has been transparency and accountability. One, what is it that happened to Kira? How did you let a woman that was in perfect health walk into your hospital and not walk out? And then secondarily, what is it that you are doing to make sure that this doesn't ever happen to anybody else? Mm-hmm. And sadly, Cedars refused to answer either of those questions. So I had to take matters into my own hands and move forward with a civil action. And Kira's, the action that we took actually, it's just like, and then I kind of vowed, just being frank, I vowed to take that place apart brick by brick, because this should never happen. And the layers of failure. And so what has happened is that in that process, Tavis, there were multiple Cedars-Sinai employees who were whistleblowers who came forward to speak about what happened in Kira's case, right? One of them, and I'll come back to him, but two of them were nurses, both involved in Kira's care. Not only did they speak to the failures, the systemic failures of procedural things that they failed Kira on, but they spoke specifically how Kira's race played a role in her care. Then they also spoke specifically to the broader issue of a culture of institutional racism within Cedars-Sinai. The testimony from those two brave individuals, one who was a Caucasian woman and then one who was an African-American woman, who was a part of Kira's care team. I did not see her, but she was called in when Kira went back into that second surgery. Yeah. And they saw what happened, and they couldn't in good conscience move forward without sharing their story. That testimony, because now at this point, Tavis, is not just my account of what happened. Yeah. It is Cedars-Sinai employees speaking to this, right? Yeah. Those testimonies became the catalyst for a civil rights action that then became the catalyst. And this is what I want our listeners, particularly in the Black community, to understand where we are going with this and why this case is so important, not to our family, but for every single family in this country. That testimony became the catalyst for the Department of Health and Human Services to open up a federal civil rights investigation of the treatment of Black women at Cedars-Sinai.
Hold that thought 1 second, Charles Johnson IV. I'm up against the clock. In our remaining moments, we will hear where that investigation is, where that investigation is headed. But this all happened because Charles Johnson IV had to take matters into his own hands. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org.
Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
I've got 4 short minutes left in this conversation. I want to do 3 things in 4 minutes. One, I asked earlier about how Langston and Charles the fifth are doing, but I want to know how Charles the Fourth is doing all this time later. I want to have him share about Kira for Moms, his nonprofit. But I want to start very quickly with the update on this investigation. Let's do those 3 things in 3 minutes. Charles, take it away.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me. And so this investigation led by the Department of Health and Human Services into the civil rights of Black women at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. And so to bring this home for our community is this is the branch of the federal government that provides federal funding for hospitals. So when this investigation is concluded and when they establish this pattern of institutional racism, this hospital will no longer be eligible for federal funding. And so this will send a loud, definitive message to hospitals and health systems all over the country that if you are not taking steps to address systemic racism in your culture, you are complicit and you will be held accountable to a different level. For Cure for Moms, tell me about your nonprofit work. Yes, sure. For Cure for Moms is an organization we founded in 501c3 that we founded in honor of Kira and every other mother that has made the ultimate sacrifice, given the gift of life. And we are committed to eradicating this maternal mortality crisis. Full stop. We do this through education, advocacy, and legislation. So you can find out more about our organization at www.forcureformoms.com. And it's the number 4, Kira, the number 4, MOMS on all social media as well. For Kira for Moms, the number 4. The number 4 twice, exactly. The number 4, yes, indeed. And finally, you did that quite nicely, brother. I thank you for moving through these 3 minutes. But I want to close. Yes, I want to close talking about you. You told us earlier that Langston is doing well, that Charles the Fifth is doing well. I want to know how Charles Johnson the Fourth is doing. Honestly, I'll be real. It goes back to my boys. They saved my life, and although there's nothing that I can do to bring Kira back, the highest honor I can pay her is to do everything we can to send other mothers home with their precious babies and to make sure that we raise men that are consistent with the greatness that she wanted for her sons. And so that's what I do every single day, and it's an honor, and that's what keeps me going. None of us, Charles Johnson IV, would ever want to be in your shoes. But sometimes God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And obviously you fit that bill. And so thank you for your work and for your witness. Thank you for your transparency. Thank you for your truth. Thank you for sharing this story once again with this audience in this hour. And all the best to you, man. I'm just grateful. I'm deeply grateful, sir. As am I for you. Thank you so much to you and your team. Looking forward to connecting again soon, brother. I appreciate you. Monique, we got to change gears dramatically after that hour. Let's get our laugh on with Monique, who's on the comedy tour right now. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Supreme Court is hearing arguments about former President Trump's claim that he is immune from prosecution for anything done while in the Oval Office. Trump has argued he must have been impeached by the House and convicted by the Senate. Trump's attorneys will try to convince the court that Trump shouldn't face charges for alleged election interference. A reported associate of Sean Diddy Combs is pleading not guilty to drug possession in a Florida court. Brendan Fall was charged yesterday in Miami, Florida with felony cocaine possession. The former Syracuse basketball player was arrested last month on the same day federal agents raided two of the African-American music mogul's homes. Paul allegedly had cocaine inside a travel bag. A separate lawsuit accuses Fall of working as a drug mule for Combs. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore.
Chevy Equinox for only $199 per month. Visit ChevroletOfMontebello.com for details. Together, let's drive.
At Chevrolet of Montebello.